Hi and welcome. This is VoiceIt. My name is Hasanath Rahman and we're here today to talk about a very important subject.
Hello, my name is Keysaan. I'm a student at Newcastle and I'm the other co-host.
Hi there, I'm James Boardman. I'm a clinical psychologist and I work in the National Health Service in a service called CAMS.
Hi, my name's Cameron Hill. I work for the YMCA as the youth content creator in NCS, YMCA Go and YMCA Activities.
So today we're here to talk about mental health and also bullying. Many young people go through these traumatizing events as they grow up. And here today we have a real story by my good friend Cameron, who'd like to share it with us today.
Growing up in high school, which most of us do, I think it kind of started, I think it more or less started in primary school. Around year 6 is when I really started feeling the pressure of everything. Didn't know what I wanted to do and I didn't really have any friends. I used to literally sit at the bottom of the field by myself sometimes if I wasn't introduced into playing games. When I did play games with the other kids, I always felt left out. I never really felt like I had anyone to talk to. And then it just got worse when I went into high school. The first day, literally, we would sit in the canteen, there was loads of us there, and I was terrified. New environment, new aspects. I was a year 7, so like knowing that in high school I'm going to be having to study for my exams, my GCSEs, it just was terrifying. So I tried to make new friends, and they just told me to go away. I was a freak. They knew me from primary school, so they were like, "Oh, that kid over there is weird. He used to sit by himself." And I used to think to myself, well, that's because I had no one to talk to. You guys singled me out, and when I did try and get involved, I was still singled out. When I used to be with them, I felt more alone than I did by myself. I used to, in primary school, obviously, I made my own imaginary friend because I was that lonely. I started to speak to myself. I would sit there and just talk by myself because I didn't have anyone. So it was quite scary. But no, year 7 was where the bullying really started kicking in. I would get called smelly. There was a rumor apparently that I had when I was in high school that I actually pooed my pants, and it didn't happen. But the fact of there was a rumor that went around. I got the name. They used my name, my last name, because I have 2 last names. I have Hill, which is my biological name that's on my birth certificate, and my family name O'Kane. And the name that they used to give me is, pardon my language, shit stain O'Kane. And that was literally the nickname that I was given throughout the whole of high school because someone made up a rumour about me in year 7. But it was really hard making new friends because it was either I'm the weird person or I'm the freak. I have no friends. The only friends I had were outside of school, and I have a friend that I've known for since I was 5. He didn't even go to the same school. He wanted to come to my school to protect me because he knew how much I was getting bullied at that school. But I spent most of my time in the library. That's my comfort zone. That was literally my comfort zone is the library.
So with all this stuff that happened, what did it lead to? What happened?
I think the major thing that led to was self-harming. I hurt myself a lot because I felt the anger, the rage inside of me, wanting to hurt them, but because I was such a nice kid and I didn't want to hurt them, I hurt myself. I took all of that rage that I felt in high school and just took it home, literally beat the crap out of everything that I could get my hands on. I broke both of my knuckles in both of my hands when I was growing up. I actually now have a dent in my right hand where the bone itself never healed because I had constantly kept punching stuff. I was a very angry kid growing up because of what happened in high school.
Dear. It's unfortunate.
Did this affect your social life outside of school?
Yeah, it did. My friends could see that there was a dip in my mental health. I developed depression. I developed anxiety. There was days where I was so scared to go into high school that I didn't go in and I would sit at home. And the thing that upsets me the most probably about all of this is that when I started cutting, I would cut my arms because I was a relief of pain. It became an addiction. So even when I wasn't even depressed or feeling anything, I would still do it because I enjoyed the pain. and I would see the pain as my own friend. I had, obviously, like I said, I had depression, and anxiety, and anger, and a lot of my friends ask me, how do I define them now? I defined them as their own personalities. When I was depressed, I was a completely different person. When I was angry, I wasn't me. I was cold. I was cold-hearted. I would hurt anyone that got in my way. When I was anxious, I'd be scared. I'd be one of those sort of people that would be biting my fingers, talking to myself. So when my friends ask me, how do you define mental illnesses? Define them as their own personalities, because they're intense. Where I know, obviously, people out there, they have obviously something that they call, I think it's BPD, which is obviously split personality disorder. It wasn't like that, but that's how I described it, because it was easier to explain. So when I finally got therapy, I think in year 9, they asked me, how did you define all this? Define them as their own personalities, because that's how I saw them. And I've only recently started being able to control them, because I still dealt with a lot of trauma. A lot of the trauma, like past trauma, not actually stuff that was going on. Because when I obviously came out of high school, it's just changed. My life changed completely. Because in high school I found my religion. Because I'm a Buddhist, so I used that as a gateway to look after myself and protect myself. It helped me control my anger myself. So when I was always angry, I would turn to my religion to be able to find a peace in myself. Because obviously in our religion we believe that every human suffers for a reason, and that is true. I believe that we all suffer for a reason, so we can have a greater life, and that's where you find inner peace. So I found my inner peace in high school, and then I took it out. And when people used to bully, like, don't get me wrong, the bullying still carried on, but it didn't affect me as much. So when people bullied me, just walk it off. Or I've learned, I had built myself, as they call it, a silver tongue. So I've learned that from my uncles. So I'd used to use that in college to get myself out of situations, so I didn't feel the negative effect.
Sorry to cut you there. So in terms of young people who suffer through this, I know that you're a psychologist. How many times do you come across this kind of issue? Is it a very common thing? Because I've seen from personal experience that I've met many people who've gone through this. Is it a common thing for these people to come to you, and have you come across these people?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I want to say is just thank you, Cameron, for that incredibly bold story that you just shared with us. And sadly, yeah, I can certainly, in a lot of young people that I would meet and talk to, I hear really similar stories. And often, actually, when people struggle with bullying and feeling different and isolated and on their own, it's often sort of late primary school that most young people tell me is when things start for them. So it's sadly it is a common story that I would see. Yeah.
Why would you say it's late primary school? Because this seems to be the specific age when bullying starts seems to be towards the end of primary school. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, I'd welcome everybody's thoughts on it. You know, why that might be. One of the things that we do know, in terms of people growing up and different points in your natural development, is around that age you just get a bit more aware of difference. You just get a bit more aware of it. And so suddenly what can sometimes happen is, depending on the things that you've learned up until that point, wherever that might be from, whether that's from family or friends or TV or wherever, you tune in a little bit more to sameness and difference. So it's the time, usually, if bullying is going to start, it's likely to start then, because people might notice something that they think is different, or people might be feeling in themselves that they're different. So it could work in both that same way. And that's unfortunately when bullying might start. And then, from what I can hear, certainly in your story, Cameron, it's like a vicious cycle almost, that once it starts and a story gets told by others about somebody, and then it stays sometimes can stay with people even after bullies have stopped telling that story, but the story stays with them in their mind, you know. And I don't know if that was your experience at all.
I wouldn't necessarily say, well, it is my experience, but at the same time, my outlook is, obviously, like you were saying, Keysaan, it generally is around that age, that, I don't know what it is, it's like, I don't know, the best way to explain it is like, how I always saw it is, when you're going into you're going into high school, so you want to try, and most people nowadays, they want to be trying to be the most popular person they can be, so they pick in the groups, and it started in year 6. They all started getting into their groups because they all knew they were going to the school next door to where we were, and they just started getting really cocky. Like a lot of the kids, they were like, oh, I'm the big alpha, I'm this, I'm that. It was mainly the boys, because like I see it all the time, is that in males they try to prove themselves so much, and some people just have to pick that. And I've noticed also that people pick bullying because they've got stuff going on themselves, so they use bullying as a way to relieve their negative energy onto people, and it is something that I've noticed throughout like all of high school, all of college. People, because there was one person that used to bully me. It wasn't in high school. It was a friend. He's a friend now, and he's had such. He was going through a rough time, and he used to pick on me because he didn't know how to talk. And when we finally sat down and talked, I finally figured out what was going on, and it was amazing, because I now see him as a very close friend, and it wouldn't have turned to that if I hadn't asked him what was going on at home, and he explained it to me, and I got him the help that he needed.
It's crazy to think how like you're the one who needed help, but then also the people who are bullying you are also people who need help. So I feel like in terms of, like you said, that the way that you got better is finding religion and finding that to help you. As a psychologist, I just wanted to understand the kind of ways in which you feel that you could help young people going through these phases.
Well, I think the best place to start, and I think in your story, Cameron, is that young people have to try and find their own way and find their connections to others, and actually feeling accepted by others and by themselves is a really, really important part of good mental health. Long before somebody might, I suppose, come to see me in CAMS, for example. So I'd be curious about that, really, to turn the question around and just think about, what do you think we need to be doing, all of us, as a society, or in schools, or as communities and groups, to, like, at that early stage when it starts to happen. What do you think might be like helpful for everyone around
in terms, if you'd like to speak.
I think first of all we need to be able to accept other people's differences, because I remember when I was in primary school, I think one reason I was treated differently was because of my religion. I didn't do certain things other people did, and I think that's the main reason that you get bullied. That people try to pick on certain differences you have.
Yeah.
And I think as a society we need to be more accepting of other people's difference.
Try and be more diverse, and like if other people understood the differences, it wouldn't be much of a difference. It'd just be people just have different types of lives.
One thing that I find funny is if we, depending on how, if you are very healthy, if you took two healthy people, and you have one white and one coloured, and you cut both of them open, they have the same organs and the same blood, the same beating heart. We are all similar. We all come from different backgrounds, but we are all still human. We as us, we should be worse than each other, because the stuff we can do. A lot of people nowadays, they're like, oh, I'm not smart. Yes, you are. If you put your mind to the thing, you could become the next Einstein. And essentially, if you are that, you can push yourself, and it's all about developing you as yourself. Like me, I would say I have a very strong mentality, and I still have my down days, and there are still days where I feel like I have no confidence, but I know deep down that I have a strong mentality, and that's coming from where I've come from. And it is, you're all right. You have to find yourself. You can't just, yes, you can go to therapy, yes, you can go to CAMS, you can go anywhere. All they can do is give you the key to that door. You need to be the one to open that door and walk through it, because if they can't push you through it, because at the same time they're not inside your head. We're not inside each other's heads. And I'm guessing the one thing you've probably witnessed yourself is you can't always think and feel what they're feeling, because it is hard to see what's actually going, because they could be telling you something that's completely different to what they're actually thinking,
totally,
and it could be terrifying. Like one minute you could have a kid sitting there saying, I'm okay, everything's fine. a few days later you can find out he's committed suicide, and you just like you in your work, I bet that could really mess with your head, because you're like, that kid came to me and said that he was perfectly fine, and then the next minute, you find out that one of your patients is gone. That has a really heavy weight on your heart, and that's why I appreciate everything anyone in CAMS or anything. I appreciate what you guys do, because you guys are there for us when we really need it. Like I said earlier, I wish that that I had gone back to CAMS after, because I went to CAMS when I was referred. I went to CAMS and it didn't help me, and I think that was mainly down to my own immaturity. I didn't want help, so I just kept listening to what he was saying, and I kept making him out to be the bad guy. But if I had went back, I think it would have been completely different, because they are amazing. Any therapy service is amazing, and I advise anyone that is actually out there suffering from anything to go to one of these, get referred, and go and get the help, because it does help you. And believe me, I wish I went back and got the help.
It's great advice. It's good to make these services aware for any of you guys out there who are suffering these types of issues. I also wanted to ask, in terms of family as well, did you ever, throughout the period of when this tragedy occurred, did you ever go to your family for help?
It's a good question, actually, and something that I'm actually glad that I get to speak about. My mum I love my mum. We haven't always seen eye to eye, and if my mum sees this, I do love you. But me and my mum have always had a rocky relationship. I think personally, it was always down to her partners. I hated every single one of her partners, and the only one I've ever loved isn't with me anymore. His name was Steve, and he was like my stepdad, and to me he was my dad, because I never knew my dad. And I've only recently just started getting back in touch with my dad. Same with you, Dad. If you see this, I love you too. But we never really had a bond. I never had anyone but my mum, and my mum couldn't teach me the looks of being a man. So anything like that, it was really hard. So I've got a very feminine side to me, because I've learned from my mum, and I like basically a family of females. And don't get me wrong, it's amazing, because I'm very intuitive. I'm now an empath, as you would call them. So I am very in touch with people's feelings. So I am very good at telling when people are upset or sad or anything. I'm really good at telling it now, because I've learned from being around the environment. But no, I did speak to my mum. There were days where my mum would tell me to grow up, and that's understandable. She's had a lot to deal with, so she didn't want to have to deal with my problems, and most of the time it was me being stupid. But there were days when my mum would come into that room while I'm crying and hug me and tell me everything was okay. I remember that I had a massive argument with one of my exes, and she could hear me screaming, and my door was locked, and she came charging through the door and said, it's okay, calm down. And I was screaming in my head, and she grabbed me and hugged me, and I was trying. And the fact of you feeling your mother holding you is the best feeling ever. But no, I did go speak to my mum. It was more my auntie, because my auntie worked in social services, because she took my cousins in when they had a bit of a problem. And she was the one that was there for me as well a lot. My uncles, when I was growing up, I went to them, and they were quite rough in high school, so they taught me. It was actually my uncle Sean that taught me him and Shay taught me how to use to unlock my silver tongue, as I would call it, so I could be very witty and being able to give comebacks. And so when someone says,
do you think that's a good way to?
No, it's not a good way. Don't follow my aspect in that one. I don't follow my aspect in that one, but that was how I survived college.
Yeah.
There are other ways. Walk away. Best advice ever. If someone's giving you crap, walk away. Just walk out of the situation and don't look back. And if it happens the next day, go and tell a staff member. Yeah. Just don't become them. Don't become them, because that's what I started to do. I started to become them, and it sent me into a nasty ass spiral, which I regret. But no, like you were saying, was my family there for me? Yes, by all means, my family were there for me when I needed them. I wish I had a little bit more support. Yeah. I really do, but it's in the past now. It's really one of those sort of things that I can now look past. I talked to my family about some of the stuff that I went through, and I saw my auntie not so long ago when I went to rugby. Yeah. And she turned around to me and said, the fact that you've come so far and you've grown into such a gorgeous man, as she calls me, still makes me very cringy when she says it.
Like when I first met you, over a quote that we had. Like, you wouldn't guess or assume in any way that you'd have suffered any of these issues that you've gone through. Like, you seem like a very strong, very held together person. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. That makes me sad.
Even I'm sure the other two guests on the panel.
Do you think the school provided enough support, or do you think they should have made it more comfortable?
No.
No.
My school did not support me whatsoever. I'm not gonna lie. My school, I think, sat back through half of it and watched it happen. Schools nowadays, they don't even. I don't know because I'm not in the school and I've never been around. I do work with young people, so it's not something that I'm comfortable asking them either. So I'm not gonna. I don't feel comfortable walking up and saying, "Oh, does your school provide you some of this sort of thing?" I like to let them come to me. But from what I can gather, yes and no. I think it's kind of depending on the situation. But when I was at school, no. Like I said, they referred me to CAMS, and I think they referred me too soon because I didn't want help. And I did say this, I didn't want help. I was okay, but that was more my immaturity that was kicking in there. But no, I do feel like if you go and speak to the right people, they will help you. Like I lived at the YMCA because of a situation that I went through. It's a situation I won't speak about because it's something that I'm trying to fix. So I'd rather not open up a wound for that one. But no, I ended up in the YMCA, and it's like a youth. It is literally a youth educational hostel for young people that are from the age of 16 to 25 to go there, and if they have nowhere to live, they go. And obviously they work very closely with people from CAMS and any of the services. And I had probably one of the best PDCs, which is our personal development coach. And if I needed something, I'd go speak to him. And I didn't need to go to any therapy because he was my own therapy. Because he would sit down and he would listen to what I had to say, and it was amazing. I wish a lot of poor places had that sort of person. I think every school should have at least a mental health nurse or worker for the people to go be able to speak to them, because the young people do need it. I mean, they've got GCSEs, like year 11 and year 10, they're going to stress themselves out a lot.
Do you know, I'm really pleased you brought that up because one of the things that have changed quite recently, and actually the government has brought it in, is something called a mental health support team. I don't know if anybody heard of mental health support teams.
I didn't realise that it was out yet though, so that's...
Well, it wasn't. When you were at school, it wasn't.
No.
But Stoke-on-Trent was one of the first places in the whole country actually to trial them. So in Stoke-on-Trent we have mental health support teams across most schools, and the hope is that over the next 3 or 4 years, every single school will have a mental health support team attached to it. So
they need it, and I'm glad that they've got that.
So it's lovely feedback to know, because that's what you're asking for. And that's kind of what's happening, which is really good.
We need people like you to open up, to make these issues aware, so that the government and James's team can get involved and help prevent what happened to you to happen to young.
I mean, I would love to be able to do that myself. Like I've said, within Stepping Stones, if they ever have a child that really needs someone to speak to that's gone through that experience, I will come from my work and I will come and sit with them for about as long as they need and listen to them and then give them advice on how to deal with it, because it isn't fair. And I want to be an influencer and a role model, and that's one of the ways I'd love to be able to do it. I wish I could go. One of the reasons why I haven't gone further is because I don't want to go to uni. And nowadays, a lot of places, if you want to become a psychologist, you have to go to uni. And I know for a fact I don't want to put myself through the stress to go to uni. So it's one of the things that I would probably do it in a few years, but at the moment, not right now. So I can use the experience that I've got to be able to give to other people.
Even using this whole VoiceIt channel to even express yourself and to make aware to young people that if they need help, just ask. If they need help, just go to someone.
And trust me, the more you ask, the more you'll be noticed. It's down to you guys taking the leap of faith. It doesn't always work, and I'm not gonna lie about that. But take it. The leap of faith is there, and you will find someone out there that is willing to sit there and listen to your problem. There is always someone out there that is willing to listen to your problem, and I am one of them. I am generally one of those sort of people that will sit there and listen to your problem, because I'd rather listen to the problem than have them go home and then feel even more worse about themselves.
Exactly, because I mean, you know what you would have wanted as a child, so you know what you'd want to give to someone who's going through the same thing. You know what kind of help that they could possibly need. You also mentioned, I remember you mentioned to James how some place that you went to, you mentioned you went to CAMS, and sometimes it didn't work, but then you went again, tried again, and then it helped.
It helped a little bit,
yeah.
but I wish I had stayed. I didn't stay for as long as I should have, and I wish I had stayed. But
so it's a good point, like to those who are suffering, to those who go to help, to find help, and if it doesn't work, just don't give up. Like keep on trying, and like the phrase that me and Cameron said, that there was always light at the end of the tunnel. If you keep
especially as now there is lots of organizations that provide support at the moment. For example, there's the National Bullying Helpline. You've got UK Bullying. If anybody's interested, their helpline is 0808 888 222.
No, I didn't know that. I'm going to keep that one in my head now, so just in case anyone asks me, here, go this way.
Sorry, it's 0808 800 2222. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Yeah, so there's lots of support at the moment. So I think definitely people should not be afraid to ask one of those organizations. And I was just wondering, did you have do you think the pandemic caused a rise in cases, in bullying cases, people being referred to your clinic?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really good question. Actually, we have seen a massive rise in mental health difficulty, not because of COVID itself, actually, but more the impact of isolation. We used the word isolation today, didn't we? And what the lockdown has done, which has been really important for health reasons, but then for mental health reasons, it's had quite a big impact on those that already might have difficulties with the mental health, because it's cut people off from their communities and sometimes families and friends, and isolation. And so we've listened to a story today where school has been a pretty horrible place to be, from what you've described, Cameron, but also those young people for whom school can be a haven, can be a safe place to be, and it might be that there are other community centres that is a haven for them to be able to feel safe and comfortable in, but because of what's happened recently, that's been cut off a little bit. So we have seen an increase in it. Yeah, the things that we've seen the most increase in terms of mental health difficulty, the first one is anxiety. So we've seen a lot of increase in young people across the age range, actually, even quite young ones, all the way up into teenagers especially, with an increase in anxiety. So that's definitely happened. We've also seen an increase in eating distress, so people that have restricted their eating because they feel very distressed. So that's also increased quite a lot. And sadly, and again, Cameron, in your story, self-harm and suicidal thoughts are also things that have increased quite a lot as a result of the lockdown too.
Yeah, it's true. Because people like yourself, when going through these times, they already feel isolated themselves, and imagine also being isolated in your homes, and it just builds up and builds up.
Yeah.
In terms of over COVID, did you guys change in any way that you offered support to still kind of cater to those suffering?
Yeah, so certainly I can only really talk for CAMS, it's a relatively small area of support for mental health, because there's loads and loads of amazing charities, there's stuff that happens in schools now, there are national charities and so on. But in our little CAMS team, what we did is we continued to offer face-to-face appointments, actually, obviously with PPE under the guidance from the government, to make sure that those young people that needed to be seen face-to-face to feel comfortable and connected could get that opportunity. But we've also been able to, and I'm a little bit old now, but I'm still getting used to video calling and that kind of stuff, but we've tried to use video calling where we can, and telephone support as well, so we've sort of adapted. Actually, one of the things that we've done, which has worked quite well, has been, so we used to run groups, and I think if you can get groups of young people together to support one another and hear each other's stories, a bit again like Cameron's story today, it's just really powerful and amazing to witness. But that's the one thing we've not been able to do face to face because of the restrictions. So we've done online groups, which is a whole new world for me, I gotta tell you. But so far the feedback we've got is that form of help has been quite useful actually. So
it's better than nothing at all.
Yeah, we've got to adapt, haven't we, and do what we can. Yeah, but I think, and this is the conversation I'd like us to also have, that there's services that the NHS can do which are really important, 100%. And I work for the NHS, so I'm going to talk about those services very positively, aren't I? But also, when I was listening to Cameron's story, and there's another young person who was clearly struggling with their own issues, and the way they were expressing that struggle was to bully, actually, to be unkind. And you look at Cameron's response there, which was to try and understand and to connect in a non-judgmental way. And I really think that regardless of where you work, everybody can do that, right?
It's true.
Everybody can. Everyone can be curious about what's going on for someone, and try to be non-judgmental in the way that they talk to people, and to try and be kind. I think every single level of the community, if we could do that more, we're going to reduce mental health difficulty.
Oh yeah.
100%, right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
I mean, it's good to make aware to those who are struggling and who use bullying as a resort, to understand what kind of effect that has on people, to understand what it can lead to. And that's what I feel is important, not only for us to make aware to those who are suffering to get help, but those who are suffering and resort to bullying to also try and understand that there is help out there for you to guide yourself towards feeling as happy as you could possibly be.
Oh, but I will say, don't get me wrong, high school, bad, but there was one light at the end of the tunnel, and it was every day when I used to stress. Sometimes I used to stay at high school for a little bit later, but now I study a lot of the mythologies. Mm-hmm. So I used to sit in the library, like I said, a lot. I used to read books, used to read loads of books, and it was amazing because I've read a lot of Greek mythology, Norse mythology, and all of the mythologies that I can get my hands on. So there was a good light at the end of the tunnel with high school, because I still do it to this day. One of the things that I always love getting is books to read, because I love books. One of the things that I've now done is I've read all of the Lord of the Rings books plus the Hobbit. I've read all Harry Potter, read all of the Aragon books, and now I'm reading the Silmarillion as well. Trust me, that book is very confusing to read, but I'm glad that I found that sort of way of dealing with a lot of stress. If I get stressed, just sit down and read a book. That's the one thing I always do.
It's like getting yourself out of a situation, putting yourself in a completely different world.
Yep.
Even I don't know, you mentioned you played games. When you play games, it feels like you're in a completely different world.
Oh yeah.
But again, it's not always good to avoid everything and put yourself in different worlds.
No, I would say it's probably better to deal with the situation as it is and when, and then think. Or if you want to put it off, for when I'm really stressed and let's say I've had a very stressful day at work, I've got a VR headset, and a lot of people suffer from motion sickness so they can't play it, but for me I don't. So I will put my VR headset on, play that for about an hour or so, and then come out of it and then deal with the situation as and when I need to. Because there are times where I will say, don't always push yourself to sort it out straight away. There are times where you need to take time for yourself to readjust and then deal with it. Because if you, let's say that you are having a struggle, and then you're straight into the rabbit, you're gonna end up losing more of your sanity than if you take a step back, look at it from the outside point of view, then go back into it.
So having something on the side to kind of
always helps
distract yourself from what's going on.
And it could be anything. Literally, it could be literally anything.
Books, games,
sports.
I think sports as well.
Sports is a massive one, because if you take in sports and you have that, let's say you are a very angry kid or a very angry person, doesn't matter what sport it is, you can use that anger and channel it. For me, when I was angry, I played basketball, and I channeled all of that into learning how to play basketball.
It's a good way to keep healthy, even gym as well. Good way to keep healthy and also channel all your your anger
negative,
into
or that negative
something
energy into something positive.
Yeah, it's true.
It's really good for our physical health and
Oh,
our
yeah.
mental health.
Oh, yeah.
So
I
it's
think,
definitely something we recommend.
You
Yeah.
may, and I've heard a lot about how your physical health correlates with your mental health.
Yeah.
If you keep yourself in good fit condition.
Yeah.
For me,
really helps.
I haven't got it. I haven't got it tested. I don't know. I will have to go to the doctors, but I believe I probably have asthma because when I'm running, I get out of breath. That does not stop me from running. I love my running. I used to do cross country, and I still do. Like, not with anything, just myself, and I love it. And now when you see me in the woods, I will run faster than most people because I know how to combat all of the different terrains. I remember when I went out on a trip with a co-worker, and we were running through the woods, and I just left him. I was like, wait up, boom! I'm just halfway down the hill. I was like, I can't catch up with you. No, that's because I did cross country. I was out of breath by the end of it, but it's just the feel. For me, with this, the feel of the wind, the rush of the wind hitting you. You're a skateboarder as well, aren't you? So you get that feeling like when it's quite, let's say it's a bit of a windy day, but you still skate, and the speed that you get, and it's the wind, it just makes you feel so alive because you're there in that moment.
Sports also gives you a sense of perseverance, like trying again and again. If it's gym or if it's skateboarding, or also like trying again and again. And I think that's an important aspect to learn in life, is perseverance, to try and keep on getting help again and again and again.
Gives you a sense of belonging.
Not giving up is important.
Did you make more? Did you feel it was easier to make friends in extracurricular activities than at school?
Oh yeah. By all means, yes. Trying to think, one of the ones that chess is a massive one that I got into growing up, and I absolutely loved meeting some of the people. And now I have someone at work. His name's Frank. He's an old guy, and I'm never very good at chess, but he's teaching me how to play chess properly, and it is genuinely amazing because then I can take that out to the real world. One of the things that I know for a fact I will always be able to do is go play Dungeons and Dragons. I've never played it, but I know I have a lot of friends that would love for me to join it in with them. So it's one of the things that I'm literally willing to go and do. But yeah, no, extracurricular activities is one place that I managed to find quite a good few of my friends.
And actually, on that note of talking about sports, VoiceIt actually offers a magazine which is produced every month, and it covers many things about sports and different spotlights.
This month's spotlight is about Amina, who has cystic fibrosis. She describes her life living with this condition, and cystic fibrosis is something that's not talked about much in minoritized ethnic communities.
So, in fact, not in most communities, it's not talked about enough. So it's often used CF for short, and I actually love what she's written here, because she calls her CF chronically fabulous. That's already captured my imagination.
The quote that I've liked, because I'm on the, I think it's like page 3, the quote that she puts, "I have cystic fibrosis, cystic fibrosis does not have me." That's powerful. I like that.
It's amazing. Yeah, she even says, "My illness does not define me." So it's amazing how she's going through this, but she still carries on with her life and doesn't let it affect her in any way. If on that note, because we do have to cut it short here, is there any last piece of advice which you'd like to give to the viewers out there watching? You can start.
Yeah, happy to start. I mean, thank you for watching would be the first thing I'd say. And the main piece of advice is, if you're experiencing bullying or any kind of mental health difficulty, that you're not alone. There's lots of people that are experiencing the same thing. And please talk to someone. If you need to get any help from a professional, then you have, certainly in Stoke-on-Trent, the option of talking to a teacher who can direct you to a mental health support team, which might be able to give you some advice. And we also have a really good website called combinedwellbeing.org.uk, and we have a big range of different difficulties that people might experience, with information on there about what you can do, people you can talk to, different aspects of advice that you can pick up. And if you need a referral into CAMS, which I didn't introduce at the beginning actually, but CAMS is Child and Adolescent Mental Health Service, but it's called CAMS for short. And so I've used the word CAMS, I think, with everybody a bit too much today. But you can get a referral into us through that website as well.
Well, with me, before I give you my advice, I've just been finishing off reading this, and I've just been noticed that the badminton for
Abid Sultan, yeah.
Yeah, so I actually he actually plays at the YMCA, I think, every so often. And last Tuesday after I finished work, I just come down to go to sports, and I went to the toilet, and I saw obviously Armin's little brother Hakeem, and I saw Armin playing badminton, and I went up and I climbed up because obviously where the gym is, you can look down into the sports. I saw everyone, and the fact that he is absolutely amazing. I some of the stuff that he was doing, and I've never seen someone play it that fast. It's just quite scary. But all of them, everyone that was playing there, that was absolutely amazing on that day, and it was absolutely great. But yeah, I just saw that, and I thought I'd want to talk about it.
I'm glad that you brought it up. I mean, Abid Sultan is one of UK's best badminton players. I believe he's in the top 100. I believe he's top 60, and him himself has suffered things and gone through things such as racism, being left out in school, going through high school, and he's channeled that into sports. And to see how far he's come, going through what he went through, and becoming one of the best badminton players in the UK is amazing to see. And he also is in this issue this month, and you'll be able to read about his story, and hopefully we can have him on this show to talk about his experience sometime.
Yeah, for my advice, there's a lot of like services out there, and I advise you to go to any of them. If you guys ever get in contact and you guys ever come to Stepping Stones and you guys need someone to talk to, they can always contact me and ask me to come and speak to you, and I'm always willing to give my time to come and help you, because I don't want any of you guys to go through what I went through, and I would hope that I'd become a very positive role model to you.
And I also just wanted to say a huge thank you to both of you and to Keysaan for helping me out here. A huge thanks for coming down. I think James also cancelled some of his plans just to be here with us today, and he was a huge help in enlightening us, in professional help, and also for Cameron here for sharing his experience. It's always meaningful to get a first-hand experience with someone who's suffered, and also a good opportunity for us to ask questions. And for him, he answered them amazingly, and he answered them in detail. And I hope that what both Cameron and what both James had said has been a huge help to all of you here today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed having this discussion. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did, and I hope we do this again at some point.
Thank you, Keysaan.
Thank you very much for joining us today, and I hope that you all have an amazing evening, amazing night, or amazing morning, whichever it is. Thank you.